You consume it daily. You go through more than you probably realize. You are literally made of it. But how much do you really know about water? Join me, Lake Storywater, and my droid, H2O, as we travel in search of the science behind water and water-related concepts. This is Story of Water. Earth, the blue planet, gets its name from the color of the oceans that cover almost 3/4 of its surface. 97% of all the water on Earth is in the oceans. But what do we really know about what lies beneath the surface of these waters? Did you know that we know more about the surface of the moon and even Mars than we do about the ocean floor? Less than 20% of the ocean floor has been fully mapped. In this episode, we'll submerse ourselves into the abyss that awaits in Earth's oceans. Let's start with the basics. If you have ever swam in an ocean, you know that one of the main characteristics of an ocean is its salinity. Ocean water is salt water, but how salty are the oceans? If we were somehow able to remove all of the salt from all of the oceans, which on a side note will actually occur one day when the sun begins to expand into a red giant and will get close enough to Earth to evaporate the oceans. At that point, there would be enough salt to cover all of the land on Earth to a depth of 5 feet.
How many oceans are there?
If you are like me, you were taught in school that there are 4 oceans: the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic. However, there has historically been an argument for 5 oceans, with the waters around Antarctica constituting a 5th unique ocean, the Southern. The United Nations group of experts on geographical names is responsible for the international standardization of naming geographical features. This group has worked with the International Hydrographic Organization, or IHO, for naming marine geography. In 1937, the IHO recognized the Southern Ocean as a distinct ocean, but reversed that decision in 1953, citing controversy. Although the IHO has recently considered reinstating this ocean, it has yet to do so. The tide started to turn for the Southern Ocean in 1999, when the U.S. Board on Geographic Names began recognizing it. In 2021, 2 major organizations recognized the Southern Ocean as distinct: NOAA and National Geographic. So now, the consensus is building that there are indeed 5 oceans. But no matter the number of oceans we define, they really are one big connected system of water. Ocean currents constantly move water between all of the oceans. In fact, a single drop of water would take about 1,000 years to cycle around all of the oceans and return to its starting point. We do, however, divide the oceans into different zones based on different factors such as distance from land, depth, and light penetration. I want to take you on a tour, starting at the surface and working our way down to the ocean floor, with a special focus on how the amount of light that penetrates affects the zone of the ocean. Imagine, if you will, that we are in a submersive vehicle floating somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, and it is a bright sunny day. We begin our descent into the epipelagic or sunlight zone. The sunlight zone occurs at depths down to 250 meters. That's as deep as nuclear submarines typically will dive.
How far down could a human dive?
Let's consider free diving, which is when one takes a breath, dives as deep as they can, and comes back up. The record free dive is 129 meters, set by Alexander Molchanov in 2016. In the sunlight zone, enough sunlight can penetrate that photosynthesis can occur. This is crucial for the food chain. Phytoplankton needs sunlight to produce food for themselves, and the phytoplankton in turn are food for larger consumer animals, and those larger consumers are eaten by even larger consumers, and so on. That's why 90% of ocean life lives in the sunlight zone. This, of course, will also be the warmest zone. Once we pass 250 meters, we enter the mesopelagic or Twilight Zone.
The scary old black and white TV show?
Funny, H2O, but no. The Twilight Zone extends down to 1,000 meters. The record for the deepest scuba dive, which differs from free diving in that the diver has an oxygen tank, reached into the Twilight Zone at 332 meters deep. This was done by Ahmed Gabber in 2014. There are some notable creatures we may see this deep. The Japanese snow crab, which is the largest crab on Earth, has legs that span almost 4 meters. The coelacanth is a prehistoric fish that walks along the bottom with its fins and was thought to be extinct until discovered alive in 1938. The giant oarfish, which looks like a sea serpent, is the world's longest bony fish and can be up to 11 meters long. In the Twilight Zone, there is very little light. One of the adaptations that animals have down here is bioluminescence. Bioluminescence is the ability of living things to produce light. The light that is produced is formed through a chemical reaction between at least two compounds, luciferin, which emits light, and the enzyme luciferase. In some fish and squid, light is produced by a bacteria called photophores within the host organism. It is estimated that 75% of deep-sea organisms use bioluminescence.
What do they use bioluminescence for?
Here are 4 main purposes for bioluminescence. 1. To escape predators. A burst of light can blind predators, while countershading can confuse predators. 2. To attract prey. Light may be used as a lure for food. 3. Courtship. Glowing patterns can attract mates. And 4. Communication. Different patterns and flashes of light may be used like a language. As we pass 1,000 meters, we enter the bathypelagic or midnight zone. We're looking for a Cuvier's beaked whale. These whales are the deepest diving mammals, and they can dive down to 3,000 meters deep in search of food. Although it may be hard to spot one because the midnight zone is completely black, with no sunlight penetrating this deep. Since the oceans are so deep, 90% of all ocean water sits in the midnight zone. It is very cold, just above freezing at about 36 degrees Fahrenheit. There's also a tremendous amount of pressure. The pressure can get up to 8 tons per square inch. Try having the weight of 50 jumbo jets pushing down on you. That is what 8 tons per square inch would feel like. It is no wonder then that submersibles that go down this deep must be specifically made to withstand that pressure. Animals also have special adaptations to survive down here. Believe it or not, there is life at the bottom of the deep oceans. First, organisms in the deep have no swim bladders. Most fish have swim bladders for buoyancy and to help them stay at certain depths. Swim bladders would create extra and unnecessary open space in the organism, and since the organism always stays at the bottom, it has no need for a swim bladder to help it float higher. They also have soft, flabby skin and bones, since if these were hard, they would more likely break due to the pressure. They can also survive in the very cold depths. Some fish have antifreeze proteins in their tissues to prevent them from freezing. Regarding the lack of light, organisms have a heightened sense of smell instead. Eyes are typically larger to catch any light from bioluminescence, which may also be used to attract prey. Those that have teeth are usually long and sharp because they need to make sure they capture their prey right away, as they might only get one chance to snare it. Some organisms also have expandable stomachs to hold as much food as they can, since food is scarce this deep. One source of food is the decaying matter of organisms from above. Any organism that dies in the ocean will eventually sink, and, depending on how other animals pick at it, the leftover detritus will fall like snow to the ocean floor. Here are some of the interesting creatures that can be found in these depths. Viperfish have long fang-like teeth and use bioluminescence to lure prey and for communication. Tube worms are found near hydrothermal vents and depend on bacteria to provide food for them. Giant isopods are related to pill bugs or potato bugs, and they can roll into a ball for protection, and they feed on the snow of detritus that falls to the ocean floor. Sea cucumbers are related to starfish and can shed their internal organs as a defense against predators, which they later can grow again. Brittle stars are also related to starfish, use their arms to move, and also feed on the snow of detritus that falls to the ocean floor. Passing 3,000 meters brings us into the abyssopelagic or abyssal zone. The average depth of all the oceans is 3,682 meters or 12,080 feet. But we are actually going much deeper than that at our location in the Pacific Ocean, which, by the way, is the largest ocean. The Pacific Ocean also has the Earth's tallest mountain, even though most of it is submerged. Mauna Kea in Hawaii rises 9,966 meters or 32,696 feet from the ocean floor, even though only 4,205 meters or 13,796 feet of it is above sea level. For reference, Mount Everest's elevation is 8,849 meters or 29,032 feet. The deepest shipwreck ever discovered is the USS Johnston, which sank in World War II and was found at a depth of 6,456 meters or 21,180 feet back in 2019. To put that into perspective, the Titanic rests 3,800 meters down. This is also deeper than the Arctic Ocean, whose deepest spot is 5,669 meters.
How deep are the other oceans?
The Java Trench in the Indian Ocean is 7,290 meters down. The South Sandwich Trench in the Southern Ocean is 7,385 meters down. And the Puerto Rico Trench in the Atlantic Ocean is 8,408 meters down. These deep trenches are technically found in what's known as the Hadal Zone, which is 6,000 meters down. We have finally come to the Pacific Ocean floor, landing with a dull thud and kicking up a cloud of snow. How far down are we now? We are in the deepest part of the Pacific and on Earth, found in the Mariana Trench, which is 10,984 meters or 36,037 feet deep. That's about 7 miles down. This location is known as the Challenger Deep, and it was first reached by Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh in 1960 in their deep-sea submersible, the Trieste. It took the pair 4 hours and 47 minutes to reach this point, and they were able to spend 22 minutes on the ocean floor before their 3-hour and 15-minute ascent to the surface. The Trieste had to have 5-inch thick walls to withstand the crushing pressure at that depth. Even with that protection, they still had a window pane crack due to the pressure, but luckily it didn't break. To date, 22 people have reached this depth, including the famous film director James Cameron, who was the first person to make the dive alone in 2012 in his submersible, the Deep Sea Challenger. His descent to the deepest point on Earth took only 2 hours and 36 minutes, which allowed him to spend 3 hours exploring the ocean bottom. It is pretty amazing to think about how deep the ocean is, and then to think about how much water there is on Earth to fill our oceans. So many creatures call the ocean home, and so many people's livelihoods depend on the seas, that the importance of the oceans to our world can't be overstated. I hope you enjoyed this brief dive into the ocean depths, and get rehydrated after all that salt water. Lake Storywater here. Are you interested in starting a podcast but don't know where to start? Well, I was in your boat too when I came to Anchor.fm. Anchor has many tools to help you start a podcast. They help record and edit your podcast, they distribute your podcast, and they provide some opportunities to make money as well. And the best part is it's free. So try it today. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Thanks for joining us on Story of Water. If you liked what you heard, why not subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast provider? Let your friends and family know about it as well. Connect with us and listen directly at www.story-of-water.com. Check out the blog or email us feedback. If you really enjoyed the show, become a Patreon supporter. Just click the donate button on our website. Remember, stay hydrated. See you next time on Story of Water.